First of all, thank you for joining us, Judy. We are continuing our Maryland Art Series, and I'm so glad that you've joined us. Introduce yourself to everyone.
Before I introduce myself, I'm just going to say I'm so glad to be here. I don't know if you guys know how infamous Danielle is, but I do. So I'm very honored to be here. My name is Judy Leak, sometimes Bowers. And I am an actress, a graduate of Howard University, Department of Fine Arts, which I'm really excited about, always. And I'm a teacher also in DCPS for over 25 years. But I am still in the theater and still working.
A working artist.
Yes.
So tell me what it's like working in the state of Maryland. What is it like working here? Because you perform like right up the street at AFI.
Oh yes. Both of the companies that I belong to, one is Live Garra Theatre, and I'm on the board. I've been on the board since 2010, and that's located right on Colesville Road in the Silver Spring Black Box. And the other is the Bison Repertory Theater, which our good friend Hope Price is the director of, and the artistic director and the writer for most of the plays that we perform. Live Garra Theater is also a Howard University Theater Arts graduate. Her name is Wanda Whiteside.
Wow, I didn't know that. Yeah.
It's really exciting to be here in the DMV and working, doing what I love.
Right. What are some of the challenges of you're keeping a full-time gig and you're a full-time actress?
You know, it is very challenging, but there's so many here in the DMV. There are so many amazing actors and actresses and writers and producers who are also working other full-time jobs while they pursue this career full-time as well. Some of the challenges are sleep, time management. I have been on the heels of listening to some of the things you suggest about how to manage my time appropriately and how to manage my amount of time on social media as well and be very careful and safe. I got that from Danielle. So it's challenging, but the work that I do on stage is connected to the work that I do in school. I'm also in a program called STEAM in the Park. It's science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, which is the arts is often taken out of that,
That's right.
out of context there. In my opinion, arts is in everything. It has everything to do with every field of study. So incorporating what I do on stage with what I do in the classroom is not too far apart. There's a lot of artistic endeavors in the classroom that allow children to have agency of voice in all that they do. And so I get to improv that as I go along, and they get to do that too. So
I love that, agency of voice. And for those of you that don't know, the DMV is DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So people that don't live around here, we say the DMV, they're going to be thinking about, well, was she going to get her car fixed? Like, what is it? She going to get her tags?
Right.
No, it's DC, Maryland, Virginia.
Yeah.
We affectionately call it the DMV.
Yes.
Agency of voice, I love that. Talk about, what does that mean? I'm going to use that phrase, but let me use it correctly. So when you talk about agency of voice for artists, what does that mean?
So again, not just for artists, but for humans, for beings, for people who are citizens of wherever they are internationally, that they have the right and the wherewithal and the courage and the stamina to speak up on their behalf and on behalf of the people that they represent or their families or even what they want as a 6-year-old child. And they really are able to do that. Adults are doing that, which brings us to the part about media, which is so exciting for me because when I was coming out of Howard University, there were so many structures put in place to decide who gets to be on television and who does not, or who gets to perform their works of art and who doesn't. Today, because of social media, people have more agency of voice than they've ever had. There are people who create their own venue. They sing, they dance, they create, they build, and they do all of these things from a social media platform, which makes people go, oh my gosh, I didn't know she could do that. I didn't know he could do that. Did you ever hear that girl sing before? Oh my gosh, so the freedom to express their works of art. And I believe that art is in everything. I said it before, architecture, in mathematics. I did 3-2-1 contact when I left Howard University, which was a science series. And one of the gentlemen that we interviewed was Mike Malone, of course. Like, why? So in my mind, I'm thinking, why are we interviewing Mike Malone? Because he's a choreographer. And then I had this great opportunity to understand how he uses symbols to write and record his choreography prior to bringing it to the students or the actors or dancers that are doing the work. So look at all of the things that take place there. He has to understand spatial things, and he has to understand measurement. It has to incorporate movement and place people in certain places at certain time. He has to understand how to instruct the technical team where the light should be, where the shadows should be. All of that is science. Yeah. All of that is science through creativity. And not to mention the Leaning Tower of Pisa or pyramids or whatever structures we look at. All of it is at the hands of someone who is creating. And in that term, they are artists. Absolutely. That's who they are. And so it's easy to take that concept and take it into the classroom. I saw a gentleman, his name is Charles Bolden. He's a retired astronaut, and I interviewed him almost 30 years ago. So I saw him with my class recently right before they started to do renovations at the Space Museum in DC. And he said from a platform, I have no understanding why they took the A out of STEM. Yeah. Why would they take the A out? And of course, then I run to him and go, yeah, that's perfect! Because it's the truth. It's in everything that we do. So science, technology, engineering, and mathematics are a specific platform, but the art in it brings the creativity and the expertise and also the platform and the experience and the outcome. It's all through art. So, it's not hard to meld the two together.
And speaking of creating, you've created artists. In addition to being an artist yourself, you have created artists. So with your daughter and your son, and I saw you and your son perform together at Black Box. What is that like? I mean,
you know what? I was like, look at them. No. They grew up with a strong sense of artistry. My sister was in DC Youth Orchestra, and she went to Switzerland. She was the first Black female graduate in percussion at Boston University. So she was the first female, but also the first Black person to graduate in percussion. So they all did youth orchestra very early. And unbeknownst to me, my daughter went to Spelman, and a friend of mine.
You mean she didn't go to Howard?
I know. What's the matter with her? Hello.
What?
Anyway.
It's an HBCU. I know. We'll let her live.
We'll let her slide. So he sent me a video of Morgan performing at a poetry event with a bass player. And he said, Aunt Judy, did you know? I said, absolutely not, I didn't know. So I'd never seen Morgan in that way. And she, in addition to that, she did the spoken word on a CD that my niece did, Micah Chevalier. So it was I was even then, like, why you didn't tell me? So the only one that I knew was, arts driven was the youngest, because she went to Ailey, she studied with Dance Theater of Harlem, she went to Duke Ellington, so she was on the path. I knew that. But my son, he started working for Vera Katz, like just doing small things that she needed around the house as it related to technology, because he's a technology specialist.
Oh, I didn't know
IT
that.
specialist. He was a director for the DC Department of Housing for many years. And she said, well, what can I pay you? And he said, oh, nothing. I just want you to teach me.
Wow.
Right. So I'm the last to know. So the next thing I know, Vera invites me over to her house, and she goes, oh, Vera Katz, I have to mention. She's professor emeritus from Howard University, and of course the directing teacher and acting teacher for many well-known artists that came out of Howard University, including our dean, Felicia Rashad.
That's right.
So she says, okay, and then she invites me over to hear his monologue, and I'm like, wait a minute. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I didn't know what else to say. And now he's still working, but he's pursuing this art. And Elaine is in California pursuing hers. And somebody said to me, Morgan's just the last one, to get up on stage. But in the meantime, she's Peace Corps, you know that. She's AmeriCorps, and Lainey danced at the London School of the Arts in London. And so, but just to know that they appreciate it so much that they use their energy and time to create, their own spoken word pieces, and now seriously moving into an area of the arts in a whole nother level. I'm waiting for him to pull out his cello on stage. I mean, he played it his whole life. So I'm very excited about them understanding that nothing that they do is separate from their artistic sensibilities. And to me, that's the most important thing.
That's everything.
But performing here in Maryland is wonderful. I love Maryland. I'm originally born and raised in D.C., but Maryland is, certainly my home too. And working with the Silver Spring Black Box, Live Garra, their mission is to focus on social constructs and how we can move how we can use the theater as a venue to bring that to the table, so that people start having those hard, difficult conversations sometimes about different cultures, ethnicities, and also multicultural living. Silver Spring is just an amazing place when it comes to the cultures of the people who live here, work together, and do very well together. And then Hope's business, the Bison Repertory, her focus is bringing African American theater to the stage so that people are understanding our perspective. And her hope is that it not just engages people while they're there, but that the conversation of whatever it is they've seen goes on. And Tammy says this all the time. I call Hope Tammy sometimes.
So do I.
Okay. So just so we understand that she wants the conversation to go on long after the curtain has come down. So these strong, wonderful women from Howard University have created a venue for me to come back to a place that is my heart. And I am so happy and so proud and so excited to do it. In 2010, I got a phone call from Wanda that said, hey, I want you to do a one-woman show. I graduated many, many moons ago. So, when I've been in theater a long time. In teaching a long time. And Mike Malone came once to my school and asked me what I was doing there. He thought, what are you doing here? But if I wasn't there, I couldn't give to those students what was so freely and fortunately provided to me by Howard University. I have to add that. Many of my students, and I'm sort of bouncing around, but many of my students, I have students on Broadway right now that were in my first grade classroom. Wow. Because of shows that we put on that were not necessarily sanctioned or talked about. We were just like, oh, we're going to do a show. We're doing a show. Everybody's doing a show. I even have students whose parents came to me and said they never really spoke out loud, and now they're on stage because they understand that the agency of voice. They have a voice. And once you give them the opportunity and the stage to do it, they're just like, okay, I got something to say. I have something to say. I know about that, you know. And it's lovely to watch. So anyway, Wanda calls me and she says, come and do this play. It's called Chicks, and it's about a teacher. So in the meantime, I'm thinking, okay, it's about a teacher, and I'm a teacher, so I probably could, that'd be a good thing for me to come back to.
Right.
And then my daughter said, Mom, you're going to be up there by yourself? Like, there's not going to be anybody to help you? But she's young. She doesn't remember 3-2-1 contact, or she doesn't really have the same vantage point that my older children have of me. So she's thinking, you're on stage by yourself? Ooh, Jesus. And I was like, no, but Lane, you don't understand. I'm by myself. So whatever I do, it works. Right. Whatever I do, it's going to work. And it really did bring me, give me the courage and the excitement, and rekindled a fire in me. And the piece was talking to the audience, so it wasn't just me performing. I walked out into the audience, I talked to people, which is what I do in class, you know? So it worked, and here I am, loving every moment of it. And even more loving the fact that social media provides a platform for people who you would never see. Because I took class at HB Studio in New York City. It's Herbert Berghoff, it was Uta Hagen. She wrote a book called Respect for Acting. At the time, there were universities all over the country were using her book. And I remember even then watching these young people in New York who were so talented, but they never moved beyond that because there was this construct. You have to have an agent. You have to, you have to walk this walk. You have to talk this talk. And you have to impress this one, and you have to know that one. But with social media, that's over.
Change the game.
Change the game. Change the game. And I'm for it.
Right. How do you feel about technology aside from social media? You know, we're all talking about AI, and it's all in the visual arts. Has it gotten into the theater world yet? Are you all worried about it in theater?
So the pandemic was interesting because everybody I know, I have a girlfriend named Nadine Mozon, who is the theater director at the University of Texas in Austin. And she was the first one I know that they just went right to Zoom. They just started doing Zoom performances all over the country, Zoom performances. I did one in Silver Spring with the Silver Spring, the consortium.
Okay.
Over the, and we were all thinking, because personal, face-to-face or personal is very effective, but it worked. People did it. It worked. And then it provided an even more social media platform for those people who decided, well, we can do our own play. Right. I can produce my own stuff. We can do it right here, and we can Zoom it, and we can invite people to come. And we didn't, there was no beat. Right. We just kept moving. Right. And we shifted because we're human, and because we're malleable, and because we improvise.
There you go. Okay, now tell people what's coming up next for you. Where can they find you next? What are you going to be in next? Where do they find you on social?
On social media. You know what? This is interesting. I feel like I have one of these names that you look at kids and go, why would you, name yourself that? But I did a performance at Howard University. It was called Sweet Lucy, and I was Sweet Lucy. And as I have matriculated past all that, and many of my friends that danced with Laverne Reed are still dancing. So there became this conversation among social media. Well, who was the first Sweet Lucy? I was like, excuse me, that was me. That was me. I'm in the classroom, but that was me. So my social media is Original Sweet Lucy.
Love it.
On Instagram, but on Facebook, I'm Judy Leak. And then, of course, on TikTok, I'm still Original Sweet Lucy. And then my Twitter account is connected to DC Public Schools. Okay. And, so I think we're Mighty DC Scholars or something.
Then y'all gonna look for her for Original Sweet Lucy.
Original
Sweet Lucy.
I can still dance, just so you know. Movement is still there. But
movement is still good.
Right, it's still good. But I'm just, again, so thrilled to be sitting next to you.
I'm so thrilled to have
Y'all
you,
don't know.
Judy.
She the one. She the girl.
That's hilarious.
I mean, you really are.
Oh,
so when you
thank
reached
you.
out, I was like, oh, and I get to sit where Khadija sat. and she's so very impressive.
She is.
You know,
Khadija is
I met her in
amazing.
2010 when I went back to the theater. She was there with her women and her group and her poetry. And
Khadija was our first podcast, in case you guys are wondering.
ooh, fabulous.
Yeah.
And I worked with her
she's our board
daughter.
member. Okay.
We did a piece called America's Talking. And we had people from all over the United States who were either immigrants or their parents were.
Okay.
Different from the Middle East. We had people from Asia. It was just a wonderful cast, and her daughter was in that play.
Nice.
So
Well, listen,
it was
Judy, I
wonderful.
just want to thank you so much for coming, and for being that person who's looking out for our young people and making sure that they stay in the arts.
Oh, I
okay?
love them. I will
And
continue
I know
that.
they love you. All right, thanks so much, Judy.
Thank you.
Great.
You're the best.
This podcast is supported in part by the Maryland State Arts Council, an agency of the state of Maryland that plays an essential role in ensuring every Maryland resident has access to the transformative power of the arts. Visit them at msac.org.